The copy brush allows the transfer of pixels from one part of the picture to another. First, we tap down to define where the pixels will come from. Draw out a rectangle and tap down to show where they're to be copied to. Copy will now draw in whatever brush size or style, airbrush, chalk or paint is required. Lifting the pen out of proximity allows a new rectangle to be defined. A major application for copy is retouching. Here, this picture has many blemishes which can be quickly hidden. This time using a small airbrush with copy. Other applications include illustrative effects, such as this example with the chalk brush. The smudge brush allows more illustrative effects. Any brush style or size can be used to smudge out picture detail. Here, using the paintbrush gives a very hard effect. But using the airbrush gives a much softer effect, here for speed trails. As with other brushes, smudge is pressure sensitive, but it's also affected by the speed of the pen stroke. The faster, the longer the smudge is. In the Graphics menu, we can define a grid. The color box shows the color of any displayed grid. A grid may be defined in either of two ways. First, using statistics, select the H and V boxes and enter your statistics. Here, this has now divided the screen area into a 6x4 dot grid. Now, swiping off allows us to tap down and define a rectangle, which will be subdivided by the original 6x4 dot grid. With the alternative method, we define the rectangle at the start. The first pen tap fixes a corner. The second defines the grid on the screen. Pushing down again allows us to further move the grid. The yellow lines show us what we may pick up and move. This grid can then be subdivided using the H and V statistics as before. One by one over the whole picture effectively clears the grid. We'll use this new one to show Draw Grid, which uses brush size, style and color for the grid lines. Alternatively, by selecting Draw Stencil, we can draw the grid into stencil. Square takes the grid height for its reference size. This same principle applies to dot grids too. Major uses for grids include defining the position of graphics and cutouts. For clarity, we'll draw this grid into the picture. Use allows us to use the grid. The grid box itself is just to show the grid as a reference and can be switched on or off. With Use on, we can, for example, use the grid to define the exact position of a graduated rectangle. Over one square, over several squares. Using the same grid in Paste Up, Use Grid will restrict the position of the cutout to the grid cross points. Alternatively, by using Center, the cutouts can be positioned in the center of the rectangles. Cell is for use in cell animation and is covered in that section. Finally, note that Grid can be used just horizontally or vertically. So far, we've been seeing it used in both axes, but by switching off the vertical, we can now start and finish unrestricted by the vertical columns. Or again, switching off the horizontal allows us to move freely over the horizontal lines. Fettle is located in the Effects menu. We can define a rectangular area of picture, or all, which brings up a net of sub-menus and a graph. The screen converts to a reduced resolution preview display, but you can always check back to the original by hitting the Original box. Fettle gives us a wide range of controls to affect the color and contrast of the picture. For example, we can quickly see the effect of more contrast or less contrast in the picture. The graph shows the adjusted transfer characteristic for color and luminance. Center shifts the luminance curve to right, or left. Gamma values other than 1 will bend the curve. Up for larger values, down for lower values. Brightness can be used to add to the luminance. Or reduce the luminance. Cast allows color changes to be added to the picture. With red cyan, positive values increase the red and reduce the cyan, whilst negative values increase the cyan and reduce the red. The same applies for green magenta. And for blue, yellow. Saturation allows individual controls of red, blue, cyan, and yellow. Invert reverses all the characteristics, giving us an instant color negative. Color curves can be pointed individually. Here, the red cyan is changed, or the blue yellow, or the luminance. Original can be used to normalize any of the individual functions, or all. Original all will restore all functions to normal. Finally, when we can see the required Fettle adjustment has been selected, we can confirm it to produce the result in full resolution. Note that the library allows us to save color curves for later recall and use. Under Paste Up, the percentage box above Stick allows the transparency of any cutout to be set so that it will make a dissolve with the background. Fonts are supplied on the magneto-optical font master disc in 3 standard sizes. These are 35, 85 and 160 lines height. From these 3 nominal sizes, the type may be further adjusted in the Paste Up menu to any size on the screen. Note that the master disc holds over 180 typefaces, which can be made available for use. We're now selecting 3 different fonts to illustrate the use of multi-line text. We shall compose 4 lines of text to fit onto these boxes. Each line may be composed over the picture. Return allows us to start a new line. Fonts may be changed during composition. The text can be moved by pressing and moving the pen outside the immediate area of the text. At the moment, the text is justified to the left. It can be centered by hitting C, or hitting R justifies it to the right. Here we want it centered. And size down. Again, being careful to avoid sliding the pen over the text area when changing numbers. Now positioning the whole text with the first line over the top box, further adjustments can be made. Kerning can affect all lines at once. Y ink alters the leading or line spacing so that the text can be very quickly placed in the required place to fit over the 4 boxes. Line allows us to affect an individual line. Here, for example, we move it in the X or Y axis, or change the size. The same degree of adjustment is also available at the character level. Here we're changing the kerning. Styles such as outline, surround, etc. can be viewed live, so that their effect can be clearly seen, and any alterations made prior to actually sticking the text or cutout down. The text can be given any color and used to cut a stencil. Here, the cut text is shown in black. To make it clear, we can use the percentage stick to dissolve it. Also, the styles may be dissolved along with the text itself. Under Library, items such as pictures, cutouts, stencils, etc. are saved to and found from the disk system. Types allow us to define picture, cutout, and so on, and any means all types will be included. Name enables keywords to be used in the search. If it's left blank, it will find all items. End starts the search, and the first 12 found titles are shown. These items can then be more closely examined with the browse. Here, a mixture of different types have been found: cells, typefaces, pictures, and cutouts. The search could, of course, be limited to a selection of types by use of group or simply an individual one. Note that cameos and logos are for use with cipher and are not further detailed here. Likewise, stacks apply to presenter operation. So here's a search for all pictures, not title defined. Now, using the first letters of a title, the search finds only items matching those letters. Note this need not necessarily be the first word of the title. Info gives more information on the found items, including its type, the disk it's stored on, the date and time, its owner and category. The card shows one item at a time and can be used to enter data. For example, here, retitle is used to change the name of the picture. The card can also be used for find or save operations, where all aspects, including type, disk, owner, category, and name, can be entered. These may be selected from the menu or by tapping the card itself. Note that keep, lose, and recall are included for future development, so currently they may have no effect. Curves is found in the Graphics menu. Tapping down on the picture defines a series of points, defining a closed curve. It can be open or filled. At any time, a point marked by a cross can be picked up and moved. Insert allows extra points to be added. Delete removes them. Note that this is one of several curves functions that deselects itself, so for more than one deletion it must be reselected again. Delete all will clear the curve. Straight allows straight lines to be drawn. Again, this can be open, closed, or filled. We'll draw a new curve to illustrate more features. Hitting tangent displays the normal and tangent at each of the points on the curve. Moving the pen to the tip of a normal, the solid line shows engagement. Then pressing down and moving the pen rotates the line through the point, or moving to and from the point alters its amplitude. Picking up the tangent allows the curve to be altered on only that side of the point. A point may be straight. Using straight again on the adjacent point creates a straight line. So straight lines and curves can be mixed. Round allows a straight point to be edited back to round. On this new curve, note that moving the single point on the right influences the line beyond the adjacent points. By using lock to hold the adjacent points, the effect of the movement is limited. At any time, the color, width, or brush type of the curve can be changed. For example, airbrush, chalk, or back to paint. Once the curve is stuck, we have another one. So it's easy, for example, to make another similar line for Quantel graphics or weather isobars. With Draw Stencil, the curve may be used to add or remove stencil medium. Here's a practical example of curves in use to trace around a shape to make a stencil. It requires detailed work using zoom and a fine brush. Operation starts in straight. It's worth noting that if the pen is kept in proximity, then the menu can be switched and operation can continue in curves. With a little adjustment, the stencil shape is very quickly drawn. The statistics and parameters of the 2D menu are totally independent of what's happening in the 3D menu. Also note the P, which gives access to the presenter panel. Add and Save are also used in conjunction with that option. In 3D position, spin and size can be changed independently with values for X, Y, and Z. As usual, position can be changed freehand over the screen, with or without the menu. Alternatively, numeric control of the parameters can be used. Note that for position, the screen is divided into 8 units across the screen and 6 down. The origin is at the screen center. Axis selection can be made directly using the space tracks. Touching the X turns it pink, showing selection. The cutout can now be moved in the X-axis. The principles are the same for spin. Again, the axis can be selected directly from the space track or use the statistics boxes. So here we can easily spin around the Y, X, or Z axes. Original spin normalizes that parameter. Spins are defined as a whole 360-degree turn equaling 1. For convenience, provision is made for incremental or decremental quarter, half, or whole spins, so precise changes from any offset spin can easily be made. In spin, the AND position box allows both parameters to be active at once. Conversely, AND spin does the same when position is selected. Now, selecting the arm on the space track selects spin, whereas the tip letter X, Y, or Z activates positional change. Size can be changed in the usual way by scrolling the pen in an area away from where the cutout is positioned. Here we're changing X and Y size parameters together, as shown by the right-hand statistics box. Note that, as with position and spin, The change to the cutout is instantly viewed in low resolution, the result being rendered in full resolution the moment the pen is lifted. Individual X or Y axis changes can be made following the same principles as for position and spin. At any point, we can originate position, or spin, or size. Or original all will do all in a single operation. By default, the axis will be positioned at the center of a cutout. Axis allows the repositioning of the axis on the cutout. Here, with it positioned at the corner, a Z spin makes a swing around that corner. Repositioning to an edge will allow a spin about Y to produce a door opening effect. Of course, the axis can be moved completely away from the cutout to produce other types of change. Original axis will place the axis back onto the cutout surface at its center. No back comes into effect when using spins. Without it, spins will produce a reversed image when showing the back side of a cutout. If this is not required, then no back ensures the picture is blanked when reversed. Normally, all changes are referred to the cutout itself. Here, a cutout is stuck to show that subsequent moves on the X, or Y axis are in the plane of the cutout. Using screen, all movement of the cutout is in the plane of the screen, not that of the cutout. Screen is effectively another set of axes. This can be more clearly seen in this drawing, showing movements in the plane of the cutout compared with those on the screen axis. Here we wish to place the cutout onto the side of the box. Using the controls we've seen for position, spin and size, it would not be very easy. Pin allows a different method of control: corner pinning. Each of the 4 corners of the cutout are shown and may be picked up, indicated by their turning pink, and moved by scrolling the pen. So very rapidly the cutout is placed in true perspective on the side of the box. Notice how the cutout's transparency, when being moved, helps us in the exact positioning over a background. Note also that styles are still available under the Styles box. To help with particular needs, edges may be picked. In this case, the other 2 pins are locked as the other 2 move together. Pins enables the corner pins to be moved over the cutout. Their correct position is important to the corner pinning operation. Pins moves the pins themselves relative to the object. As usual, original will reset the parameter. The arrows provide another method for moving pins. The green number boxes show the X and Y coordinate of the pin selected. This gives a way of moving pins even when they're off screen. Corner pinning sets the cutout correctly in 3D space, so repositioning on the X, or Y, or Z axes shows that it's actually in the plane of the box. To illustrate cell animation, let's animate the eyes on this face. First, in Paste Up, the area to be animated must be cut out. Then in Animation, this can be replicated with as many copies as will fill the screen. Here we only have 6, which is not enough. The process is repeated, choosing a smaller area so that Replicate now produces many cells. Now all the normal paint and graphics functions are available for creating the animation. Zoom can be used for detailed work. Here, painting to extend the eyelids. Having completed the first cell, the next can be started from scratch. Or tapping Move Cell and swiping off, that cell can be moved and dropped in Pin Register into another cell position. This allows a progressive type of animation to be easily made by adding more paint to each cell. Here, a set of already completed cells, called from the library, can be seen by tapping Show Cells. To make the animation, the cells must be linked together in order. Tap Make Stack, swipe off, and tap the cell required to be first. Tap again, tap the second cell, tap again, and so on until the stack is completed. Then swipe off, and in a moment the stack is assembled. There are a set of controls for replay. Using the original picture as a background, the cell can be positioned back into its original location. A tap down will hold it there. Single shot will replay the stack just one time when cued either from the keyboard's spacebar or button number 2 on the rat. Increasing the frame number will make the replay faster. Decreasing it will make replay slower. Reverse will cause the animation to play forward and then back again. Loop puts it on a constant playthrough. Live video allows the background image to be replaced by the video present at the input of the Paintbox. If at any time the animation needs altering, Show Cells displays the cells and allows them to be reworked and reassembled as required. Finally, the animation may be saved in the library using the Cells box in the menu. There's a special application for grids when used with cell animations. In this example, we wish to create a smoothly rolling highlight on the Quantel logo. To prepare the logo, it must be smaller and have its color changed to this blue. We'll stick it and make a new stencil, recut it, and then use Replicate. Giving us 6 cells to work with. Now for the grid. We want to roll a light down the logo. We want a grid about 8 down and 2 across. Now that's referred to the whole picture at this stage, but we can define an area over the top left cell. But it's not equally related on the other cells. Cells does that for us, so now we can use it to create our cell animation. Now the airbrushed highlight can be drawn with an exact change defined by the grid from cell to cell. Once the stack is made up, the stencil is automatically taken into account to show the highlight only in the right places. Sequence animation is particularly useful to make macros to carry out repetitive tasks. In general, it provides a means of recording and replaying operations of the artist. First, let's look at the general principles in an example. On selecting Record, the cursor color changes to red. The blue bar at the bottom shows Record is active. And now events are being stored, including painting, changes of menu, everything until the record box is deselected and the cursor returns to yellow. We'll wipe the picture to make conditions the same as at the start of recording and have Show Menu on so we can see what's happening. Faster will increase the replay speed. Now, hitting Replay, the events are replayed exactly and at about twice the original pace. Changing the replay to 50% speed clearly increases the replay time. Using Shuttle, the sequence replay is controlled from the rat joystick. Pulling it down moves the sequence slowly forwards. Release it and the replay will stop. This enables a cue point to be inserted by tapping Insert Cue. Rewind sends the sequence back to the start. Now on replay, the sequence will stop at the cue point. It may be continued by giving a cue, that is, hitting the spacebar on the keyboard or the number 2 button on the rat. Q dot causes a yellow flashing marker to appear at the top of the screen when the cue point is reached. This is a prompt that a cue is needed to continue. Note that any number of cue points can be inserted into a sequence. If required, sequences may be recorded in the library. A double hit of on cue or record will empty a sequence. But in any case, new sequence recording automatically overwrites existing data. Now for a more practical application using a new background and some text, which we want to move over the background at a specific rate. The required drop shadow style is set, and a title prepared for the frames that will be recorded into the library. The increment box is a useful means of changing the picture title in a sequence. We'll start with that set to 0. Now for accurate working, we need to calculate by how much the text needs to move in successive frames. So the X and Y position numbers are noted at the start and at the end positions. Divide their difference by the number of frames required for the animation. In this case, we'll elect to simply move the text along the X-axis and increment its position by 25 units for each frame. Note that this method would allow us to change any set of statistics. By hitting increment, we can see what the effect will be. Place the text back in the start position, and we're ready to begin the recording. Recording with faster on causes the quickest possible replay with instant movement between menus. The sequence contains all the operations to move the cutout 25 units along the X-axis with a drop shadow, stick it, save the result, and restore the background. Hitting record ends the sequence. Loop enables us to control how many times the sequence will replay. Faster and 100% will give the fastest operation. Show menu will help us see what's happening. Then replay. Here the frames are going to the library disk. In Harriet, they could be sold to the RAM store, or with a VTR directly to tape, or again with the A60 directly to the video disc recorder. Now we can see the pictures stored in the library. To recall them in order, we can use the Auto Fetch in the top level menu setting the title, and the number, swipe off. Tapping down now brings up the first, the second, the third, and so on. Alternatively, pressing button 1 on the rat will bring the next frame. We've shown a very simple example, but as you can imagine, sequence can be used in any number of ways. VTR control is part of the animation menu. If the menu does not show VTR, then go to the top level menu, select Configure, and tap the blue VTR box and the appropriate serial control line A, B or C being used for the VTR. Then, back in animation, the VTR box appears. Tap it, and the VTR menu becomes available. We can play, stop with a tap of the pen, tap to start again. With or without the menu on, we can frame step forwards, backwards. Note the timecode readout here. There's an orange shuttle bar to move forwards with variable speed or backwards. Lift the pen to cancel. There's rewind and fast forward. A circular pen motion will jog the tape forwards or backwards. So we can find our in point to buy this frame into the Paintbox. The start may be entered by tapping Start. Tap Buy and the VTR will rewind, play, and the selected frame is transferred into the paint screen. Note that the set timecode register has incremented by 1, ready for the next frame. If we want to keep this frame, it must be saved into the library. Using the green register, a new timecode can be defined, either completely or just by using increment by a number of frames. The VTR automatically moves to that frame. This new timecode may then be set into the buy or sell register. To transfer a series of frames, sequence can be used as follows. Record, VTR, step the register on by a frame, set that timecode, buy the frame into the screen, now save it into the library, remembering to increment the title. Deselect VTR and end the recording. Loop is set to the number of frames required from tape. And then replay. The pictures are quickly loaded. Now they're stored in the library. After work is completed on them, the sell process can be used to place them back onto tape. A60 control is found in the animation menu. If A60 does not show, then it, along with the VTR, must be configured in the top-level menu for control on the appropriate serial lines. Now in animation, selecting A60 produces VTR control with it. Selecting VTR allows the selection of tape material as already shown in the VTR control section. The tape material can be recorded onto the A60 as background. The in timecode is marked, then out is marked. Make clips shows the length of the selected material and assigns A60 space to background and result. Alternatively, if a particular number of frames, say 50, is to be used, hitting the in time code rolls the VTR to that point. When Make Clips is tapped, we can easily see we have the exact required number of frames set. Now with the timecode set, VTR to background will transfer the frames from VTR to the background area designated on the A60. VTR can now be switched off. Selecting Playout Background moves us to the first frame of the material. Tapping the screen will play it. Tap again for repeated plays. With background on, the area occupied by the background clip is indicated by the pink bar. We can jump to the first or last frame of the background. At all times, there's a readout of the A60 frame number. Operations can be carried out field by field if required. The remainder of the controls available, for jog and so on, operate in a similar fashion to those for VTR. Now in this example, we wish to rotoscope from frame 10. So 10 is entered as the first by number. The finished frames can be placed anywhere on the A60. We'll choose to start from 60. To rotoscope, by brings the first frame into the Paintbox, and the register automatically increments. The frame has the required work done to it. In this case, some painting. Then, back in animation, the frame can be sold back to the A60 and the next one bought. Back to painting. This time we'll use Next, which does both the buy and sell functions in one operation. The third method of operating uses the Next function, which is available on button 1 on the rat. In this way, work is very fast, as there's no need to change out of the painting menu. When completed, the section can be replayed. Sell shows 73, so the last frame sold was 72 and the first was 60. Select Result and Playout Result. The frames will run when the screen is tapped, or by pressing 2 on the rat. Record to Background offers options for input sources and the ability to record a single still frame as background. Note that background has its own set of commands. As does result have its own set too. A clip may be copied to another part of the A60. So setting some new numbers, 160 to 172, a new background area is defined. Copy to background will copy the result there. Now the new background can be replayed. To place the result back onto tape, select VTR and enter the required in and out timecodes. Same as background, we'll reuse the settings used for the background, but beware, this will overwrite the original tape material. Finally, result to VTR will execute the operation. One last point. Swap swaps the result and background frame numbers. This is particularly useful when adding successive layers to the frames. In this case, the result of one process is used as the background for the next. With collage, any number of cutouts can be used in paste-up. Here there are 3 left over from a previous job. To clear them, select Delete Cut. Now there are no cutouts in use. The cutouts needed to create our weather forecast are in the library. Here's the first. It can be sized and positioned in the normal way. Then another cutout can be selected and set onto the background. Each may have totally independent statistics and styles. More may be selected and set in the picture. Note that each cutout turns pink to show it's been selected by the pen. All are live, none are stuck, so any may be readjusted as required. This number shows the priority of the last selected cutout. At any time, a cutout may be deleted from the screen. Copy allows a cutout to be duplicated. Today is a rare day. It really is sunny all over Wales. Now we'll add our title bar and logo. We have all our picture elements. This one needs to be faded as a stencil in the blue color. Another cutout needs deleting. Here the priority needs changing, so the cloud goes over the bar. The bar is number 8. The cloud is number 2. Simply make the cloud number 8, and it's in front of the bar. Or to revert it back, the bar is number 7, and the cloud 8. Simply change the cloud to 7 to alter the order. As already mentioned, each cutout may have different styles. Here, the title bar needs a drop shadow. Remember, the logo already has a dissolve. Lastly, we can also include text. This may be sized, colored, positioned, and here we'll use an emboss. So now there are many different cutouts with various sizes, positions and styles. Up to now, any may still be changed. When we're happy with the composition, they may all be stuck down into the picture. Their stencil can be stuck as well to make a composite stencil. As usual, after sticking, there's now a complete duplicate set of cutouts available for further work. Finally, to ease selection of a cutout, Only ensures only that a particular numbered cutout will be selected and moved. Without Only, it can be difficult not to pick up other cutouts when close to them. Only makes operation clearer in a crowded situation. There are a number of additions to graphics. In graphics, with all the menu options turned off, it's possible to paint, and then by tapping inside the painted area, fill without recourse to the menu. This may be particularly useful when creating stencils, as the paint and fill operation saves time. Filling an area bounded by an airbrushed line presents a special problem in that it's difficult to fill without producing an unwanted halo effect. But the fill function can be used in another way. Instead of just tapping the pen, press and drag it with pressure on and lift it at the boundary. The area will then be filled up to the density of the line where the pen was lifted. This second case, where the boundary line was created with a 95% airbrush, shows that some caution may be necessary. By attempting to fill to a dense part of the edge, the fill will flood out. So first, be sure to save your pictures before filling, and second, always fill to the least dense part of the edge. Under Graphics, Rectangles, 2 arrow boxes are offered. These indicate the direction for producing graduated rectangles from the colour on the pen to the colour in the box. They may be vertical, or horizontal. Filled gives some additional ways of creating rectangles. These are bounded by the currently selected brush type and size. Here the edges are airbrushed. Paint produces a sharper but still anti-aliased edge. Note that the radius of the corners is set by the width of the brush. Centered allows rectangles to be drawn with the first pen tap defining the center, the second defining a corner. In multi-line text, here are the parameters used to set this caption. To produce another using the same values, pressing Clear once only clears the text only and retains the values. so now more text can be written with the original settings. Note that tapping Clear twice will clear both text and settings. In Library, the fast browse is a real benefit. Down shows any more pictures in the buffer. Now up and down commands give a near instantaneous browse of the previously seen pictures. Print allows title, date and other associated information to be output to a printer. This may be unsorted, in alphabetic order, numeric order, or date order. With delete, all gives a quick way of addressing all items in the buffer. The same applies to archive. Individual items can be selected, or all, followed by confirm, will initiate the archiving of all the items in the library buffer. As a part of the index filing system, the line at the top of the title display shows the number of found items, on which disk, the fact that it's protected, and that down is available. After using down, the line shows the position in the buffer of the first item shown, and the fact that up, as well as down, is now available. To refine the title buffer, keep allows us to define, by keyword, which items should be kept. Here, only those with NAB in them are retained, and lose works in the opposite way to keep, to lose items with a defined keyword. Here, DE. In this way, large title buffers can be quickly whittled down to only the required items. In the top-level menu under Artist, Percentage to Draw sets the pen pressure threshold to draw stencil. It can be set to suit individual tastes, but beware that with very light settings, that is, low values, it will be too easy to draw stencil accidentally, when swiping off, for instance. Percentage to Press sets the pressure threshold for tapping the menu boxes. The smaller the value, the lighter the touch. Again, this can be adjusted to suit individual requirements.
Zoom can be controlled from the keyboard. Hitting the Z key turns zoom on and off. The zoom is positioned by the cursor so that the required area is immediately available for work. Tapping the up arrow zooms in, the down arrow zooms out. The left arrow moves the picture away from the cursor. The right arrow moves it towards the cursor. With these controls, work can proceed without having to switch menus. Here we can move the picture with the arrows and continue to draw stencil while in zoom. Having drawn a stencil, it can be quickly checked with Icon. Tapping the box shows a Icon version of the stencil. Then sliding the pen moves the Icon, giving a better visibility of the stencil quality. Key operates in the same way to show the resulting cutout over a grey background. It's easy to see that more work is needed to complete this stencil. In the Artist menu, Statistics can be selected. These can be used as absolute pixel counts or as percentage values. With Statistics on, in Painting, pressing the keyboard spacebar enables the RGB values of the colour on the pen to be displayed. Tapping the picture selects Colour and shows its RGB values. Here a skin tone, and here a white. Activating any number box and changing its value allows a new color to be made, which is shown in the box on the left. Touching the spacebar again, or swiping off, removes the numbers and allows the color to be used. With Draw Stencil on, the display shows the value of stencil to be drawn. By default, this is 100%, but may be adjusted to create transparent stencils. The setting of a non-100% value is indicated by Shade being on. Turning it off restores the normal 100% stencil. Entering Graphics shows the last shape drawn. Tapping down allows the item to be redefined and stuck into the picture. Working with the menu up calls a different mode of operation. The edges can be picked up and adjusted. Tapping in the center enables the whole object to be repositioned. When correctly set, the item finally must be stuck into the picture. The same flexibility is also provided for other graphics, such as graduated rectangles. Circles may be drawn in two ways, either by defining the center and radius, or using tangential by defining the diameter. The resulting circle is always tangential to the first defined point. Ellipses may be drawn in a similar way. Here, the angle of the axis may be swung to create ellipses at any angle. Lines can be clearly previewed before being stuck. With Parallel on, all lines drawn are parallel to the first. Radial allows a succession of lines to be drawn from a common point. Operating with statistics turned on, the values defining any graphic are shown at the bottom of the screen. With the menu swiped off, the numbers are for reference only. But operating with the menu up, they can be adjusted. By selecting and altering a parameter, here the X origin of a rectangle, it can be repositioned horizontally. Or the Y origin can be changed to move vertically. Or the X length for width. Or the Y length for height. In a similar way, circles can be defined by numbers. Moving the center, and changing the radius. Lines are defined by an X origin, a Y origin, an X end, and a Y end. Radial lines are defined slightly differently. Changing the X value repositions the whole line, as does the Y. The third box controls the line length, and the right one, the angle. One application for this numeric control is to make graphic representations of statistics. For example, a pie chart can be accurately constructed by changing the radial line angle. Working in percentages, the values can be entered directly using the ink box, so subdividing the chart. A circle can easily be added and the chart completed. When first using glue, it's advisable to tap Clear Glue to remove any previously created glue points. With both glue and use highlighted in pink, glue points will be added as graphics are drawn. If glue is blue, then glue points may be used, but no new ones will be added. Glue works by pulling the cursor to the construction point of a graphic. For example, line ends, the center and circumference of a circle, and so on. Here, this rectangle has glue points at its corners. Notice the cursor turns blue and is snapped to the corners. Using these points, it's quick and easy to construct more graphics. For example, two diagonals. The intersection of the lines creates a new glue point, which we can use as the center for a circle. Note that the circumference has glue. Picking up the glue at the end of a line, glue can be slid along. When at the required point on the line, removing pressure from the pen allows that point to be used as a new glue reference. In this example, to construct another rectangle. Now, we don't need to make any more glue points, so glue is tapped and turned to blue. Finally, this cutout is to be pinned into the graphic. For more accurate working, zoom, with all the usual controls, is available for use in paste-up. The glue causes the pins to snap onto the glue points, making exact working very easy. Note that sticking cutouts down in paste-up can deposit glue. A grid is defined by first drawing a single cell. The vertical or horizontal may be adjusted, or both sides can be moved together. By placing the pen inside the cell, the grid may be repositioned. If the pen is tapped outside the cell, we're invited to define a new grid. If this is not required, simply lift the pen. The original grid will reappear. At any time, the original single cell may be repeated over the screen. Lifting the pen highlights the original grid cell. By using this, the whole repeated grid can be moved or adjusted in any way. With Tab and H on, a tab line is added each time the pen is tapped in the picture. Using Delete, the tabs can be removed. Note that passing the pen over the picture selects the tabs, indicated by their turning yellow. Pressing down and sliding the pen then moves them. Tabs can be positioned numerically from the number box. In this case, they can be added to the picture by tapping Insert. The V box allows vertical tabs to be set up. Delete allows individual tabs to be removed. Delete V will remove all vertical tabs. Delete H will remove all horizontal tabs. Save Grid works in the same way as Save Picture. Press Restore Grid to recall. With Use Grid on in Paste Up, there's a choice of how the cutout is to be aligned. This is set using the boxes, so with left, right, top and bottom boxes off, the center of the cutout snaps to the grid intersections. With L and T selected, the left top corner fits the grid, or R and B for bottom right. Or single boxes can be selected, such as left only. With In Grid, pictures can be called from the library and shown through a grid window. Here's the grid. With In Grid and Fetch on, the top left of the recalled pictures are fitted to the top left corner of the grid. Using In Grid only, the X position and Y position of the picture can be offset and used for successive picture recalls. With Presenter, Shared User Bus, or PictureNet, picture numbering is used. After a search, Number All makes it possible to number all the found pictures in a single operation. Unwanted numbers can be cleared as required. These are the new standard 6 typefaces introduced at the V8 software level. Hitting Rework displays the size of images in pixels and lines. These may be of special importance if importing or exporting these files with a computer. Pressing Local displays all local fixed disks. They may be read or write enabled as a group or individually. Likewise, the exchangeable disks can be displayed and enabled. A more direct method of disk selection is available from the Library menu. With Find on, local and exchangeable disks can be read-enabled. When using Save, the writable disk can be chosen. With PictureNet or shared disks connected, these will also be shown and operated in the same way. Setup All gives access to the Fettel Setup menu and presents a low-resolution display of the picture and of any Fettel changes that are made. Try It produces a full-resolution preview of the result, but there's still the option of going back to the original picture. Do It gives a full-resolution Fetteled result and exits the menu. Now, any subsequent pictures can be given identical Fettel treatment by using the Do All function. In the Full Page menu, pressing Net displays at the top of the screen the PictureNet status of this machine. Mail allows the arrangements to be set up for incoming picture mail. It may be accepted from a particular user or any user. The number range for the pictures can be set, and the mail function enabled or disabled. Mail may be sent from the library menu to the shared disk of any chosen user.